Yeah, I might.
Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the cert-manager bi-weekly meeting. It's Thursday, the 1st of May. It's just after 5 p.m. and it's great to be back after KubeCon. After our KubeCon focused meeting last week. As usual, we'll start with the announcements and shout-outs. Peter, you helpfully added links to them all in the release notes. Would you like to shout out some of these releases?
Yeah, I can do. Let me share the doc and then people can see this as they watch the recording. Yeah, I just went back through Slack, which is very handy that you guys have been, always announcing what you're releasing because that makes it really easy to find out back in time. But we have Eric, you have released approval policy 020. Awesome, thank you. Yeah. Is there anything in particular to call out from that release that you'd like to highlight?
No, it's mainly a patch release, but not strictly a patch, so that's why it's a new minor. Yeah.
Awesome. CMCTL 2.0 was Richard. I believe, and you can probably correct me, that this fixes a bunch of vulnerabilities that were flagging up, but there might be more to it than that.
Yes, it did fix a bunch of vulnerabilities. There was only one or two code changes. The one I can remember is where Tim has moved some of the conversion, some of the old cert-manager CRD types that we had deleted from the cert-manager tree. He's moved them into the CMCTL tree so that the CMCTL convert command can continue to work. But yeah, mostly fixes for CVEs and updates to dependencies. Oh, and sorry, Adam got the tests working on Mac OS X. And that became apparent during the Contrib Fest at KubeCon. So that was nice.
Awesome, thank you. Ash, I noticed some CSI driver Spiffy releases. I'm going to just say probably go with the V091, but I'll let you. Is there anything to call out from those releases, or?
I think what I would say is yes, certainly if you're a CSI driver Swift user, don't do V090. That's that turned out to have an error, which we've now started to adopt better tests in our Helm charts because of that, which that's actually a good thing. It wasn't the most fun Friday night I've ever had fixing that, but it's not. It is fixed. Basically, this is just a quality of life and dependency update. There's nothing huge to shout about, but we like to release things from time to time just so that they've got the most up-to-date versions of everything and patch CVEs even if they're not actually exploitable. It's the biggest thing about this was that someone pretty much immediately jumped out and said that the 0.9 release was broken in Slack, which means that someone's using this and cares when we release updates. So that's always nice, and I'm taking that as a win. There's not too much to say on it beyond that, really.
Awesome, thank you. And finally, the main project, cert-manager. Richard, you've been quite busy with some patch releases to all the currently supported cert-manager versions.
Yeah, we did. It was last week, was it? I can't remember. Yeah, last week we released patch versions of all three of the supported cert-manager releases, and to fix CVEs which were being reported by Trivy, but were CVEs in dependencies that cert-manager uses, which were being reported by Trivy, but which we're fairly sure cert-manager was never invoking any of the affected functions in those packages. So it's more a case of doing the releases so that people's security scanners don't go red. Go vuln check had not highlighted any of these as being problems for cert-manager.
Awesome, cool. Thank you for the notes, because yeah, I didn't know what was involved, but now everyone does because it's recorded. So yeah. This has reminded me of one thing that I was going to add in, so this might be worth a shout, but I'm pretty sure this is the month that the version 1.12 long-term release. This is his last month, right? So after this month, that LTS is no longer supported. Is that my correct understanding?
Yes,
Yeah.
that is what we wrote in the docs.
Release. For anyone, yeah,
I've
you have
been
weeks
out
left.
of this. I know that they're not doing any more open source LTSs. But I think Venafi, the sponsor, were going to do a private LTS. Is that still the plan for you lot to Venafi CyberArk?
That is the plan. Yeah. This isn't an advertising meeting, but Venafi will maintain V117 as a long-term support release. That'll be released at some point closer to the end of life of it, but that is the plan.
As a maintainer, yeah, let's say if any other company wants to maintain an LTS, they're welcome to, and we'll talk about them too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. The support page on the website is only has CyberArk on it, but that's because no one else has asked to be put on it or is providing support.
Yeah.
But yeah, the source for LTS will be CyberArk.
Cool.
Probably it's a good time to say what Richard wrote in a thread today about not publishing cert-manager to Operator Hub anymore.
Yeah, okay. We had a discussion, it was December, where the discussion started about no longer creating Operator Hub packages for cert-manager. That is the community Operator Hub catalog, because it's too much of a maintenance burden, and because there are alternatives which are supported by RedHat and Venafi. So yeah, we've decided not to do any more Operator Hub releases, and I am ashamed to say I haven't updated the docs yet, but I'll do that this next week.
Yeah.
Thanks.
The Venafi one can indeed install open source cert-manager for free, which is so it can do that, and the Red Hat have their cert-manager operator thing to deploy cert-manager that you can get from the. So, to be honest, I Helm chart is still, I think, the best way to install if you want to be able to configure things.
Yeah, I think so too. Someone actually inquired about the OLM package on cert-managers on the main cert-manager Slack channel this week, maybe last week, and I guided them towards the Helm installation method instead.
Yeah, you just can't configure anything with the OLM. So that's annoying. Unless you do what Red Hat do, where they write an operator to deploy an operator, and then you've got a CRD where you configure cert-manager, which it seems a bit overkill.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I shoulder some of the blame for the communication on the decision making there, because I think I brought that up in our steering committee meeting, the last one we had, and that was where we kind of took the decision. We shared it with the steering committee, and then they kind of rubber stamped it. And that information, I think, is siloed in the steering committee meeting notes and wasn't really shared much more widely than that. But it was shared when we decided to drop the Operator Hub bundle.
Will we?
One thing
continue-
I forgot, I think I may have made a promise to try and find out the stats about to try and know how many people are using the community edition. I never did that, so
Yeah. I don't think we've certainly not had anyone screaming that the releases haven't been published for V117, for example, until like now. People have noticed, but nobody's really been affected by it, and we don't have the time to maintain it, even if people are affected by it. I think it doesn't really move the needle on that.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, are we planning to continue releasing bundles for like 12, 16 while they're still in support?
I wasn't going to.
Maybe if there's a CVE against cert-manager?
Yeah, okay. It's quite easy. It's not, sorry, I'm contradicting myself. It's not too difficult for me to do this on this laptop right now. It's difficult for others to do it. It's kind of, one of the big problems is it's a bunch of scripts which may or may not work on a Mac and may or may not work for other developers. So
I think that
I'll
got
tell
them
you what I
working
could,
one time.
I'll, sorry, Adam, I'm talking over you. I'll consider doing patch releases for those existing releases. I'm not promising.
I think I've done one release from that repo, and I think I did get it working on a Mac. I may have even pull requested some slight tweaks.
Right, you did. Yeah, that's right. I'd forgotten. Yeah.
So it can be done. It's just, yeah, as you say, it's a bunch of scripts you have to remember to run in.
Yeah. The big problem was always often the Red Hat CI failed, and it was always very difficult to know how to get the operator published when it failed.
I hate Red Hat CI. That was the bane of my existence for the last 2 months I was working on the Verify OLM project.
Maybe they'll watch this video and
Yeah, maybe I've just burned on my Red Hat bridges. Yeah, it was just so obtuse with like it would give you logs, but it would post them like an hour or two later as an attachment. I was like, it was just so
yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Richard. I put an action down on there, so I imagine you'll probably get an email or something that you. But yeah,
All right.
It'd be nice to look at, but like I said, there's no promises. So we'll see. I think that covers the elongated 5-minute announcement section. So should we move on very quickly to the agenda topic?
I think we should. I think that's it was valuable announcement section there. Obviously, the top of the agenda is Eric, and I'm excited about this. So please take it away, Eric.
Yeah, this I have having VIP PR for a while, where I try to actually replace the validating webhook in Trust Manager with cell expression. I didn't get it all the way over the finish line. There are some complexities in the existing API, which makes it probably possible, but not very nice expressions. But since I'm now working on the new cluster bundle API, I'm hoping that I could fix this. So we could actually eventually remove the validating webhook, which will have the great benefit of cutting the hard dependency to cert-manager in Trust Manager, which has been a bit painful for a long time. As far as I know, this will bump the minimum Kubernetes version requirements to 129. I don't consider it to be a big problem, so I just wanted to discuss it here to hear what you're thinking.
I think 129 is absolutely a fine minimum given what the 130 is like the lowest supported release right now.
Yeah.
But Kubernetes. I love I would love to kill the webhooks in all the projects 100%. One of the things I've been looking at work is like trying to cost optimize by running a bunch of our operators centrally for each of our clusters, and anything with a webhook's immediately impossible.
Yeah.
So killing webhooks for all for the operators is great.
It's nice to hear because I will use that as input when designing the new API. So it's kind of, even if you're not going to make a bad API, just by making it possible to validate it with Cell, it's nice to have it in mind that you actually create something which is a good API, but also easier to validate, both by using standard open API constructs, but also being able to write rather simple Cell expressions to validate things. Yeah.
You can talk about the thing like immutability. The only point against it is it's slightly harder to test because you can't. Supposed to having a webhook function, you can just throw objects at. You've got to spin up an API server. You've got to install your CRDs, and you've got to like test against an API server. It's like so it's harder to test, but I think the convenience we get from people's end installation is far outweighs any effort of us having to spin up we already spin up a kind cluster as part of end-to-end tests. We can have some end-to-end tests that explicitly target these cell expressions.
Yeah, that's already done actually in Trust Manager. I wrote a new test for this PR when it was in the early days, and Ashley reviewed it, and he asked, should we try to run the same tests using the webhook? So the test is already there. It's using test-stand.
Yeah, I mean the projects like cert-manager, we already have this huge end-to-end test library. I can see storing some webhook tests straight into there.
Yeah. At least it's possible to do. I agree. It's better when we have simple unit tests running just purely Go, but sometimes you have to use other tools.
Yeah, and we've got in majority of a bunch of the repos we've already got end-to-end tests that have kind clusters, so it's like it's moving tests, but it's not a pain. Like it's not like overly painful.
No.
The
I personally have a problem running kind on my computer, so I would prefer test them. But we could come back to that. We need testing in any way.
Yeah, but however we do it, until controller runtime embeds some like API server magic so that you test your cell expressions.
The cert-manager support page says that OpenShift 4.15 does still use Kubernetes 1.28. So that's the only of the big Kubernetes distros that might be affected.
Is that an LTS support or something?
I don't know.
I mean, customers of OpenShift can use any version of OpenShift as long as they pay Red Hat enough money to get support for it. But I don't think we should take that too much into consideration. We should, of course, support at least the newest version of OpenShift.
Yeah. I was thinking of you, Eric, really, because I know you use OpenShift. I didn't, yeah.
Yeah, but we try to stay on the latest or near to latest versions. We actually love to upgrade to get new features.
Yeah.
I think it's not unreasonable. 129 is not an unreasonable minimum target. And yeah, some OpenShift clusters may be floating around, but in the context of Trust Manager, that's fine. I think because it's not even V1 yet. In the context of cert-manager, we have older releases that support that have a long enough window for them to upgrade their clusters.
Cool, thanks.
It might be a daft question, but and it's related to that CSI driver spiffy thing, the problematic release. When I dug into that, it seemed that Helm is installing manifests in such a way that it bypasses the some of the validation on the Kubernetes API server. So it wasn't. So it was when you installed CSI driver Spiffy version 0.9.0, it did install with Helm directly, and the foreign field that we'd got in the chart was just ignored. So my question is it with CEL based validation, does that surely you're not allowed to install manifests with and bypass that validation, are you?
No, not at all. In this case, you could install it if the cluster hadn't enabled the strict validation server side. In our cluster, we have enabled it. It's a feature gate which will eventually be enabled by default. I think our clusters has it to more loose validation. So the problem here was that the CSI driver contained a misplacement of a field inside the daemon set.
Yes. Are you saying though, Eric, that your cluster would have rejected that installation?
Yeah. I tried it Friday when Ash and me were working on this. I actually tried it in my cluster and I couldn't install anything by using the chart of the version 0.9.0.
But were you using Helm template or were you using Helm directly?
I was using Helm template, but
well,
I would
that's
imagine
different.
No, but it wouldn't matter because Helm would have to use the API, and since we have a server side,
it does seem to be different. It does. When I looked into it, it does seem to be different.
Okay, that'd be weird because I don't think there's an API endpoint that lets you skip any sort of any of the validation checks in Kubernetes.
Well, I'm doubting myself, but I was able to install the Helm charts.
Oh, interesting.
Unless Helm like pre-validates out rendered CRDs and filters out unknown fields, but I
mean the feature gate is enabled on the API server, the server side strict validation.
Yeah, so unless Helm itself is doing magic to filter out unknown fields, I don't know. It's not. I don't think it could talk to the API server in any special way to say, please, just accept what I give you.
I echo what Richard said as well. Like I installed it absolutely fine on a Kine cluster, and I saw the warning that Richard saw, but that would have been missed in tests, obviously, because it was just a warning and not an error. Like I don't know if it's I didn't have the chance to dig into and see if it was Helm or if it was some weirdness outside of Helm or something that Helm was turning off in Kubernetes, but it definitely. That's why I was so surprised by the report. I was having a cup of tea with my mum, and looked at my laptop, and I was like, "What the hell?" Like I'm not sure what the issue is.
Oops.
Yeah, I would be interested in. So I'm guessing self-validation wouldn't really have caught this then, like.
I didn't mean to. Yeah, I didn't mean to suggest that. What I meant to suggest was that what I'm trying to get at, what I'm trying to ask is cell validation as robust as webhook validation? You couldn't. It seemed to me from that Helm issue that I sent in the chat that it is possible to bypass some of the API.
But it will be as robust as a webhook. This is a different kind of validation. I mean, if you were trying to set some valid field to an invalid value, it would have been rejected even if you used Helm. In this case, the question is how to treat a field which is not defined in the API, because that's how it looks when it arrives in the API in this case, because the field was misplaced in the YAML.
All right, I don't know enough about it to talk more about it, so I'll stop. But that was my question.
So is this what led to the kubeconform in the makefile modules thing? Right, okay. I was about to say that would catch it, but it's already been done. So
yeah, I wanted a way of checking that the new release would solve the problem, and I wanted that thing to also fail for v0.9, and kubeconform was the first thing I found, and it did it quite well, I think. But it is odd.
We on a slightly related note, for testing Helm, we also I was also chatting about Helm unit test at some point, which would be a good thing to introduce just for, we have quite big Helm charts at this point, and unit tests would allow us to write little tests against them as opposed to having to do full installs and just validate that the template correctly.
I think I might have said that I was going to have a little stab at that at some point. Might not have been the same discussion, but yeah, I agree. It would be a good addition.
It seems like the client can decide whether to use strict validation or not, as Adam was suggesting. So it seems like Helm has a magic setting that applies the warn instead of the strict.
Yeah, that matches what I think. Could this be a default setting in kind that's more permissive than something else? I wonder. I don't know. Both Rich and I installed it successfully on kind, and I guess the other installations were not on kind. But hopefully kubeconform just fixes this problem forevermore and we never have to think about it, but we shall see.
He'll fix it for all the standard types.
Yeah.
I don't think we actually use any CRDs in our charts, which is useful. No, I don't think. I don't know if we should do like any metric CRDs for Prometheus Operator. I can't remember.
I mean, Trust Manager has the cert-manager at least. The cert-manager CRDs at least for the certificate grades, but it's kind of a different thing. I feel like probably we're towards the end of that topic. There's nothing else on the agenda. Did anyone else have anything they wanted to bring up? Nothing's being said, so I will stop the recording. Thank you to everyone who joined and participated, and thank you to anyone that watches this if we ever upload it anywhere.
I'm sorry, RedHat.
So yeah, it's not personal, RedHat. It's just we don't have the time. Call me. See you in 2 weeks.